What if I told you the only thing standing between you and a peaceful life is one habit you don't even realize you're doing? Not the world, not your circumstances, not your destiny, just your mind. Every time you worry, you open the door to fear and close the door to blessings. But the moment you stop, the moment you breathe, the moment you surrender, life begins to fix itself in ways you could never imagine. Today, I will show you the Buddhist truth that changes everything. When you stop worrying, everything finally begins to fall into place. 1. Allow life to flow instead of fighting every wave. Worry begins the moment the mind tries to control things that were never meant to be under its control. Life is not a straight line, and it never will be. It moves like a river, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes calm, sometimes wild, but always flowing forward. Everything around you is in motion. People change, opportunities shift, relationships evolve, and circumstances transform from one moment to the next. Yet the mind still tries to freeze life into a fixed shape because it feels safer when everything is predictable. This illusion of control is exactly where suffering is born. When you expect life to behave according to your plans, every small change feels like a threat, every delay feels like a punishment, and every challenge feels like a personal attack. But none of this is true. Buddhist philosophy teaches that peace belongs to the person who stops fighting the natural movement of life and learns to ride the waves instead. Imagine the ocean. Waves will rise whether you like it or not. You cannot stop them, you cannot push them back, and you cannot make the water perfectly still. The more you try to resist, the more exhausted and frustrated you become. But the moment you learn to flow with the waves, to move with the water instead of against it, the ocean becomes easier to navigate. This is exactly how life works. Challenges are not punishments, they are waves. Unexpected changes are not signs of failure, they are waves. Detours, setbacks, emotional storms, and sudden shifts are all part of the natural rhythm of your journey. When a challenge appears, it does not mean life is against you. It simply means you have encountered another wave on the ocean of your existence. Some waves are small and gentle, others are strong and overwhelming. But every wave teaches you something. Every wave strengthens your character. Every wave shapes your journey in ways you cannot understand in the moment. When you resist those waves, when you complain, panic, cling, or try to force life to move your way, you create unnecessary suffering. Resistance tightens your mind, narrows your vision, and blocks the opportunities that are trying to reach you. You become closed, fearful, and tense, and your life becomes heavier than it needs to be. But when you learn to flow, everything begins to shift. Flowing means accepting that you cannot control every outcome. Flowing means trusting that every change has a purpose, even if you cannot see it yet. Flowing means allowing life to unfold one moment at a time, instead of constantly worrying about what might happen next. When you move with the rhythm of life instead of resisting it, something beautiful begins to happen. Obstacles become easier to overcome, solutions appear more naturally, and opportunities that were once invisible begin to reveal themselves. Your inner state changes too. A mind that flows is calm. A heart that flows is peaceful. A life that flows feels lighter, smoother, and more aligned. You begin to notice that things start working out not because you forced them, but because you finally stopped blocking them. Life was always trying to move you forward. You were just swimming against the current. When you stop demanding that everything must follow your plans, you discover something surprising. Your plans were always smaller than what life wanted to give you. There is a deeper intelligence shaping your path, guiding your steps, and arranging the right experiences for your growth. Flowing with life does not mean you become passive or lazy. It means you act without fighting. You move without forcing. You trust without panicking. You do your best, and then you let life handle the rest. When you finally stop wrestling with reality, life begins to open in ways you never expected. You realize that all along, life was not trying to break you, it was trying to guide you somewhere better. 2. Your thoughts are not reality. Stop believing every fear. One of the biggest reasons people worry endlessly is because they believe every single thought that passes through their mind. They do not pause, they do not question, and they do not investigate. Whatever the mind says, they accept it as truth. If the mind whispers, "Something bad is going to happen," they panic. If the mind says, "You're not good enough," they shrink. If the mind imagines a future problem, they begin suffering as if it is already real. But Buddhism teaches a powerful truth that can completely transform your inner world. Your thoughts are not reality. They are simply mental events passing through your mind, just like clouds drifting across the sky. Some are bright, some are dark, some are heavy, some are harmless, but none of them define the truth unless you give them power. Most people never realize how much suffering they create for themselves by treating their thoughts as facts. A simple idea becomes a fear becomes a story becomes a disaster, and suddenly you're living inside a world that exists only in your imagination. The mind has a habit of magnifying danger, exaggerating risks, and replaying worst-case scenarios. It does this because the human brain is wired to protect you, but in the process, it often overreacts. Instead of keeping you safe, it keeps you stressed. Instead of helping you solve problems, it convinces you that you are surrounded by them. This is why people feel overwhelmed, even when their actual life is stable and peaceful. Their thoughts are loud, chaotic, and unfiltered. Buddhist monks often say that the mind is like a storyteller who never stops talking. Some stories are helpful, but most are based on fear, memory, and imagination, not truth. When you start observing your thoughts instead of blindly believing them, you begin to see how many of them are unnecessary. You notice that a huge portion of your worries come from predictions about a future that hasn't happened. You notice that many of your fears are recycled memories from the past. You notice that your mind keeps replaying old pains even when the present moment is calm. Once you separate yourself from your thoughts, you gain an incredible sense of freedom. You no longer drown in every negative idea. You no longer react emotionally to every mental wave. You begin to realize that your thoughts are like echoes. They come from somewhere, but they don't have to control your life. Understanding this truth is the first step toward inner peace. The second step is practicing non-attachment to your thoughts. This means you hear them, you see them, you acknowledge them, but you don't get pulled into them. You treat them like passing guests, not permanent residents. You don't argue with them, you don't fear them, and you don't let them decide your mood. You simply allow them to rise and fall naturally, like waves in the mind ocean. Some waves will be strong, some will be subtle, but all of them eventually pass. When you stop giving your thoughts authority, worry begins to lose its foundation. A thought like, "What if something goes wrong?" is only a string of words inside your head. It's not a prophecy. A thought like, "I'm not capable," is an old belief, not a permanent truth. A thought like, "My future will be difficult," is your imagination, not your destiny. The moment you realize this, you reclaim your power. You stop reacting automatically. You stop panicking over illusions. You stop letting your mind bully you with fears that have no reality behind them. Your inner world becomes clearer because you no longer confuse mental noise with truth. As your relationship with your thoughts changes, worry naturally starts to fade. You develop a calm, grounded presence. You start living in what is real, not what is imagined. You begin to question every fear instead of surrendering to it. And very soon, you notice that most of your stress came not from life, but from believing stories that your mind created. When you stop treating your thoughts as truth, you open the door to a peaceful, stable, and resilient inner world where fear no longer dominates. You become the master of your mind instead of its prisoner. 3. Let go of attachment. You can't lose what is meant for you. One of the deepest sources of worry is attachment. The tight, anxious grip we place around people, outcomes, timelines, identities, and expectations. Whenever you feel like you must hold on tightly just to keep something from slipping away, you naturally begin to worry. You worry about losing it. You worry about what will happen if it changes. You worry about how you will survive without it. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly liberating. Suffering comes from attachment, not from life itself. You are not hurt because life changes. You are hurt because you wanted it to stay the same. Attachment creates fear because it tricks the mind into believing that your happiness depends on things outside your control. When you attach yourself to a specific outcome, you begin to feel anxious whenever life moves differently. When you attach yourself to a person, you fear what will happen if they leave. When you attach yourself to your identity, your job, your reputation, your achievements, you fear what happens if any of it disappears. This is why attachment is so heavy. It chains your happiness to something unstable, something temporary, something constantly changing. And when that change comes, the mind panics. Buddhism doesn't ask you to stop caring. It asks you to stop clinging. There's a big difference. Caring is gentle. Clinging is fearful. Caring allows things to grow naturally. Clinging tries to control their direction. Caring brings peace. Clinging creates anxiety. When you cling too tightly, you begin to suffocate your own life with expectations. You expect people to stay the same forever. You expect outcomes to follow the exact path you imagined. You expect timing to align perfectly with your desires. But life doesn't follow personal scripts. It follows a greater flow, one that you cannot see from your limited perspective. Think of holding water in your hands. If you cup your hands gently, the water stays. If you squeeze too tightly, the water escapes. That is exactly how attachment works. The more you try to control something, the faster it slips away. The more desperate you are to keep something, the more suffering you create within yourself. Letting go does not mean losing. Letting go means loosening the emotional pressure you place on life. It means accepting that you cannot force the universe to move according to your plans. It means trusting that whatever is truly meant for your growth, your peace, and your destiny will stay, and it will stay effortlessly. When you practice non-attachment, you don't become cold or uninterested. You become free. You begin to engage with life without the fear of loss. You begin to appreciate people without trying to control their choices. You begin to work toward goals without obsessing over the outcome. Non-attachment allows you to love more deeply, not less, because your love is no longer built on fear. It becomes built on understanding, freedom, and trust. The truth is, what is meant for you cannot be taken from you. It may be delayed, reshaped, or redirected, but it will find its way back into your life according to the timing that supports your growth. The things that leave your life were not meant to stay. They taught you something, evolved you, strengthened you, or prepared you, and then they moved on. Losing something is not always a punishment. Sometimes it is protection, sometimes it is redirection, sometimes it is simply life creating space for something better. When you release attachment, you also release the constant anxiety that comes from trying to hold the world together with your bare hands. You begin to trust that life has its own wisdom, and that wisdom is often far greater than your own plans. You learn to breathe again. You learn to relax. You learn to say, if it's meant for me, it will stay. If it's not, something better will come. This mindset brings peace to your heart and clarity to your journey. It removes the emotional chains that kept you trapped in fear. Non-attachment is not the absence of desire, it is the absence of desperation. It is the understanding that your inner peace does not depend on something outside of you. When you internalize this truth, your worries dissolve. You stop trying to grip life so tightly, and instead, you begin to trust its rhythm. You begin to move in harmony with the universe rather than in conflict with it. And then, almost magically, everything starts working out, not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed life to unfold in the way it was always meant to. 4. Focus on the present moment, not the imagined future. Worry is almost never about what is happening right now. It is almost always about what might happen, what could happen, or what your mind fears will happen. The present moment is usually calm, simple, and manageable. But the mind pulls you out of the present and throws you into an imagined future filled with problems that do not exist yet. This habit creates an endless cycle of stress. You are physically in the present, but mentally living in a future that is nothing more than a collection of thoughts, fears, and predictions. Buddhist philosophy teaches that the root of peace is presence, the ability to anchor yourself fully in the now. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. It is the only moment where you can breathe, think clearly, act wisely, and truly live. Yet most worry-filled people spend nearly their entire lives mentally escaping the present because they believe the future is where safety lies. They believe that if they think enough, prepare enough, imagine every possibility, and worry enough, they can prevent bad things from happening. But the truth is the opposite. The more you worry about the future, the more you lose the only moment that could help you create a better one. The present moment is never the enemy. It is the mind's projections that cause fear. Think about it. When you were worried about something in the past, most of the time the situation resolved itself, or it wasn't as bad as you imagined, or you found the strength to handle it. Yet your mind continues repeating the same pattern, predicting danger, creating fear, and convincing you that worrying is a form of control. But worry does not prevent tomorrow's problems. It only destroys today's peace. When you are fully present, your mind becomes quiet, your breathing becomes deeper, and your body becomes more relaxed. The noise of fear fades because fear needs imagination to survive. It cannot live in reality. It needs a mental movie, a what-if scenario to stay alive. So the moment you return your awareness to the present, the fear no longer has a script to perform. It dissolves because you are no longer feeding it with attention. Being present does not mean ignoring the future. It means handling life one step at a time instead of trying to live tomorrow before it arrives. Imagine walking up a staircase. If you try to focus on the 20th step while you're still on the 3rd, you'll stumble. But if you focus only on the step in front of you, you climb smoothly and safely. This is the essence of mindfulness. Life becomes simpler, lighter, and easier when you stop trying to jump ahead in your mind. Presence also makes you stronger. When you are fully here, in this moment, your mind is clearer and your decisions are wiser. You notice details you used to miss. You respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. You solve problems more effectively because your attention isn't scattered across imaginary futures. A present mind is powerful. A wandering mind is fearful. One of the biggest illusions created by worry is the idea that the future must be known, controlled, and perfectly planned. But Buddhism teaches that the future is shaped by the quality of your present. The calmer you are now, the clearer your mind becomes. The clearer your mind becomes, the better your decisions will be. The better your decisions are, the brighter your future becomes. So worrying about the future is not only useless, it actually makes the future worse by weakening your present clarity. The present moment also builds trust. When you become fully aware of what is happening right now, your breath, your environment, your thoughts, your feelings, you start realizing that most of your fear is created by your mind, not by life. You may be sitting in a peaceful room, but your mind makes you believe you are in a battlefield. You may be safe, but your mind tells you danger is coming. You may have solutions available, but your mind tells you everything will fall apart. When you come back to the present, you see the truth clearly. Reality is not nearly as scary as your mental stories. presence also gives you emotional resilience. When you stop being pulled between the past and the future, you develop a strong inner foundation. You no longer get lost in old memories or stuck in imaginary problems. You start experiencing life directly through your senses, not your fears. You feel the ground beneath your feet. You hear the sounds around you. You become aware of your breath. This connection with the now creates inner peace that cannot be easily shaken by external events. And perhaps the most beautiful truth is this: the present moment is always enough. It may not be perfect, but it is manageable. It may not be exactly what you want, but it is real. It may not give you the full picture of your future, but it gives you the clarity to take your next step. When you commit to living in the now, worry loses its power. You stop living in the prison of predictions and start living in the freedom of reality. And slowly, you begin to see that life unfolds far more gracefully when you're not trying to outrun the moment you're standing in. 5. Trust the timing of your life. Nothing is late, nothing is missing. One of the most powerful causes of worry is the feeling that you are behind. Behind in success, behind in healing, behind in life, behind in your goals, behind everyone around you. This belief is like a quiet poison in the mind. It makes you compare yourself with others, even when your path is completely different. It makes you feel inadequate, even when you are growing. It makes you rush, push, and panic because you think time is running out and you are not where you should be. But Buddhism teaches a truth that dissolves this inner pressure. Nothing in your life is early and nothing is late. Everything arrives exactly when you are ready for it. Life does not follow your personal schedule, it follows your soul's schedule. There is a deeper intelligence guiding your journey, shaping your growth, and preparing you for the things you are destined to experience. When you panic about timing, you disconnect from this wisdom. You start believing that you alone must control everything, the outcomes, the pace, the progress. But the reality is, many of the best things in your life cannot arrive until you become the kind of person who can receive them. Timing is not just about the calendar, it is about your inner development. Every delay has a purpose, even the ones that frustrate you. Sometimes life slows you down because you are not ready yet. You need more strength, more clarity, more emotional maturity, more inner stability. Sometimes life is protecting you from entering a situation too early, when your lack of preparedness would cause you pain. Sometimes the door you want to open is not opening because there is another door, far better, waiting just ahead, but you can't see it yet. And sometimes what looks like a setback is actually a setup for something far bigger than your imagination. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go according to plan. At that moment it felt like a failure or a loss. But later you understood why it happened that way. You realized that if things had worked out the way you wanted, you would have ended up in the wrong place, with the wrong people, or in the wrong circumstances. The delay protected you. The rejection redirected you. The slowdown prepared you. This is the wisdom of timing, a wisdom that is always operating, even when you don't recognize it. When you truly trust the timing of your life, worry starts to dissolve naturally. You stop forcing things that are not ready to happen. You stop rushing into situations out of fear. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's. You start understanding that every person has their own rhythm, their own lessons, their own pace. A flower does not question why another flower blooms earlier. It simply blooms when its time comes. In the same way, your life will unfold according to the pace that aligns with your growth. Trusting the timing of your life also gives you emotional freedom. You no longer punish yourself for not being where you want to be. You begin to appreciate where you are because you understand that this stage, even if it is challenging, is shaping you for the next. You realize that the struggle you are facing right now might be building the exact strength you will need later. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random, nothing is meaningless. Every experience adds something to your journey, even if it's not what you expected. Another truth is this: if something is meant for you, It cannot be lost. It may take time, it may require patience, it may come through unexpected paths, but it will come. And what is not meant for you will fade, no matter how hard you try to hold on to it. Letting go of forced timelines allows life to bring you what is genuinely aligned with your soul. There is a natural order to your journey, and it becomes clear only when you stop trying to race ahead. When you trust timing, your worry transforms into patience. Your frustration transforms into acceptance. Your fear transforms into faith. You begin to feel grounded instead of anxious, open instead of controlling, peaceful instead of restless. You stop demanding that life must give you everything now, and you start appreciating that life is preparing you for what's coming. What you want is not denied. It is simply being shaped to fit the person you are becoming. In Buddhist teachings, trust in timing is trust in cause and effect. Trust that your efforts will bear fruit at the right moment, not before and not after. No seed grows the day it is planted. No tree bears fruit at every season. Your life has seasons too, seasons of planting, seasons of growth, seasons of waiting, and seasons of harvesting. When you begin respecting these seasons, instead of resisting them, inner peace becomes your natural state. So relax. You are not behind. You are not missing anything. You are exactly where you need to be for your next step of growth. And the moment your path is ready to open, it will. Life has perfect timing. It is only your mind that is in a hurry. 6. Understand impermanence. What troubles you now will not trouble you forever. One of the greatest sources of unnecessary suffering is the belief that whatever you are experiencing right now will last forever. When you are in pain, it feels eternal. When you are in fear, it feels overwhelming. When life becomes difficult, it feels as if the struggle will never end. The human mind tends to freeze the current moment and imagine it stretching into the future. But Buddhism teaches one of the most powerful truths ever discovered. Everything in life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same, not your emotions, not your situations, not your relationships, not your successes, not your failures, not your happiness, and not your pain. Everything is constantly shifting, dissolving, transforming, and moving forward. When you deeply understand impermanence, your relationship with worry changes completely. You stop treating your current feelings as permanent conditions. You stop believing that today's difficulty is tomorrow's destiny. You begin to see that pain rises and falls like waves in the ocean. Sometimes the waves are high and strong, sometimes they are gentle and small. But no matter how intense the wave feels, it always passes. The storm never stays forever. Even the darkest night eventually gives way to sunrise. Much of human suffering comes from trying to make temporary things permanent. You cling to moments of happiness and then worry when they fade. You attach to people and feel broken when they change. You build your identity around situations that eventually transform. And when life naturally moves forward, you feel betrayed, even though the universe is simply following its nature. Impermanence is not the enemy. It is the reason healing is possible. It is the reason pain ends. It is the reason growth happens. Without impermanence, you would be trapped in whatever moment you are in, whether good or bad, forever. Imagine a tree throughout the year. In spring, it blossoms. In summer, it stands tall and full. In autumn, its leaves begin to fall. In winter, it stands bare. Each season looks completely different, yet the tree does not resist. It does not try to keep its leaves when it is time to let them go. It does not panic when the cold arrives. It simply exists through each season, knowing that change is part of its life cycle. Human life is no different. You have emotional seasons, spiritual seasons, seasons of growth, seasons of rest, seasons of difficulty, and seasons of abundance. The more you accept this natural rhythm, the less you suffer. Worry becomes heavier when you believe your current emotion is a life sentence. When sadness comes, you panic, thinking it will never lift. When uncertainty appears, you assume you will remain lost forever. When you feel stuck, you imagine your life will never move again. But these beliefs ignore the fundamental nature of life. Everything shifts, everything evolves, everything flows. What you feel right now is simply a visitor. It is not here to stay. It has come to teach you something, to show you something, or to help you grow, and when its purpose is complete, it will leave. Understanding impermanence also helps you handle challenges with more patience and calmness. When something difficult happens, you no longer ask, "Why is this happening forever?" Instead, you understand, "This is a moment, not my whole life." You stop breaking yourself over temporary struggles. You stop giving permanent meaning to passing events. You begin to breathe through the storms instead of drowning in them. You start to recognize that even the heaviest emotions weaken over time, as long as you do not fight them or attach to them. Impermanence also brings gratitude. When you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, you begin to appreciate the moments of joy more deeply. You cherish the people you love more attentively. You savor peaceful moments without rushing through them. You become more present because you understand that every moment, whether beautiful or painful, eventually transforms. This makes you humble, patient, and deeply alive. But perhaps the greatest gift of impermanence is emotional freedom. You stop holding on to things that are trying to leave your life. You stop resisting change. You stop trying to freeze time. You start trusting that life knows what it is doing. You start trusting that endings are not failures, they are transitions. You start trusting that new beginnings often come disguised as losses. When you embrace impermanence, you no longer fear change, because you see change as the engine of growth, renewal, and transformation. Think of all the difficult moments in your past times you thought you would never overcome. Yet here you are, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. That alone proves impermanence. The pain did not last. The fear did not last. The confusion did not last. Everything that once felt impossible eventually loosened its grip. Everything passes, everything fades, everything transforms. When you truly accept this, worry loses the power it once had over your mind. So the next time your heart feels heavy, remind yourself that this feeling is temporary. The next time life feels uncertain, remind yourself that clarity always returns. The next time you feel lost, remember that the path always reveals itself again. Nothing stays forever. Not the darkness, not the fear, not the confusion. And because everything is impermanent, everything is possible. Healing is possible. Growth is possible. Peace is possible. A new beginning is always possible. Impermanence is not a threat. It is the gentle promise that no matter how hard things feel today, a better moment is already on its way. 7. When you relax, you allow life to align naturally. One of the most surprising truths in Buddhist philosophy is this: life works out more smoothly when you stop trying to force everything. Most people believe the opposite. They think that if they worry enough, plan enough, control enough, work endlessly, and push constantly, then life will finally cooperate with them. But worry does not create clarity. Force does not create flow. Tightness does not create alignment. In fact, the more tense you become, the more life resists you. The more you panic, the more mistakes you make. The more you chase, the more things slip away. This is why the final and most powerful lesson is simple: relax. Because when you relax, you allow life to unfold the way it was meant to. Relaxing does not mean giving up, becoming passive, or sitting back without effort. It means releasing the mental and emotional tension that blocks your natural wisdom. When your mind is tight, your vision becomes narrow. You only see problems, threats, and obstacles. You react impulsively, fueled by fear. Your inner world becomes noisy, and that noise prevents you from hearing life's guidance. But when you relax, truly relax, your mind opens like a clear, calm lake. The noise fades, the fear softens, the fog lifts. Your intuition becomes louder, your decisions become sharper, your heart becomes lighter. You begin to notice solutions that were hidden before, simply because your mind was too loud to recognize them. The truth is, so much of life is self-correcting. You don't have to micromanage the universe. Seeds grow on their own. Wounds heal on their own. The sun rises every morning without your command. Rivers carve their own paths. Your breath flows naturally without effort. There is an intelligence built into life that operates whether you worry or not. When you relax, you reconnect with this natural intelligence. You stop trying to drag life forward with your bare hands and allow the universe to guide you in ways you did not expect. When you relax, your energy changes. You stop radiating fear, desperation, and resistance. You begin radiating calmness, which is incredibly powerful. Calm energy attracts solutions. Calm energy builds clarity. Calm energy creates opportunities. Calm energy draws people toward you instead of pushing them away. When your energy shifts, the world responds differently to you. Conversations change, decisions change, circumstances change. Even your perspective changes. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once looked impossible begins to open. Not because the external world suddenly transformed, but because your internal world became peaceful enough to handle it. Worry tightens your life like a clenched fist. Relaxation opens it like a gentle palm. When you relax your mind, you create space. Space for creativity, space for problem solving, space for inspiration, space for new possibilities. You allow life to breathe. You allow yourself to breathe. Problems that seemed enormous suddenly shrink. Difficult situations begin to soften. Relationships become easier when you stop overthinking every interaction. Opportunities become clearer when you stop trying to force a specific path. And solutions reveal themselves when you stop panicking long enough to see them. Relaxing also creates a deep connection with the present moment. When you are tense, your mind is either stuck in the past or racing into the future. You are not really here, but relaxation brings you back into the now, the only place where life actually happens. In this state of presence, you make better choices because you are responding to what is real, not reacting to imagined fears. You become more aware of your surroundings. You become more patient with yourself. You start noticing small blessings you used to overlook. You feel gratitude instead of panic. This shift alone can change the entire direction of your life. Buddhist monks often say that when you relax, life becomes your teacher instead of your enemy. You stop fighting with reality and begin learning from it. Every experience becomes meaningful. Every difficulty becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes guidance. You begin to trust that life is not trying to hurt you. It is trying to shape you. But you can only see this truth when your mind is calm. A distressed mind sees chaos in everything. A relaxed mind sees order hidden within the chaos. Relaxing also helps you let go of your attachment to specific outcomes. When you are tense, you believe things must happen exactly as you imagine. This creates pressure, fear, and disappointment. But when you relax, you become open to possibilities you never considered. You allow life to bring you something better than your limited imagination. Many times, the reason things weren't working out before is simply because you were gripping the wrong path too tightly. Relaxation loosens that grip and makes space for alignment. The most beautiful part is this. When you relax, you start trusting yourself again. You trust your inner wisdom. You trust your strength. You trust your journey. You trust that you can handle whatever comes. You trust that life is guiding you in the right direction, even if the path is not clear yet. This trust is what transforms your entire experience of living, because a mind that trusts life does not worry. It focuses, it grows. It moves calmly, steadily, and confidently. Think about all the times you worried intensely about something, only to later realize that the situation resolved itself, often in a better way than you expected. This shows that life often works out without force. When you relax, you allow this natural unfolding. You allow things to align. You allow clarity to emerge. You allow blessings to reach you. You allow peace to grow inside you. So when life feels heavy, pause. When your heart feels tight, breathe deeply. When your mind is full of fear, slow down. When things seem uncertain, soften your grip. Trust that life has not abandoned you. It is guiding you step by step, in ways that may not be visible yet. Relaxation is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the strength to let life move through you, instead of wrestling with it. And the moment you choose to relax, you discover something powerful. Life was always ready to work out. It was your tension that kept blocking the way. Relax. Everything is falling into place. It always was. 8. Peace comes when you stop arguing with reality. One of the biggest hidden reasons people worry endlessly is because they keep arguing with the way life is. They want things to be different. They want people to behave differently. They want situations to unfold according to their expectations. And when life does not obey these inner demands, the mind begins to fight, complain, resist, and tighten. This inner argument creates stress, fear, frustration, and restlessness. You are not suffering because of life. You are suffering because your mind refuses to accept life as it is in this moment. But Buddhism teaches a liberating truth. Peace begins the moment you stop demanding that reality must match your preferences. When you argue with reality, you always lose, because reality will not bend for anyone, not for your timelines, not for your dreams, not for your wishes, not for your fears. Life moves with its own rhythm. People grow at their own pace. Situations unfold according to causes and conditions far bigger than your personal desires. You cannot bend the universe to your will. You can only align yourself with the universe. And when you do, the tension in your mind dissolves and worry loses its power. Worry is a sign that you are resisting what is happening. If someone leaves, you worry because you want them to stay. If a plan fails, you worry because you want it to succeed. If life gives you uncertainty, you worry because you want clarity right now. The mind creates a picture of how things should be, and when reality does not match that picture, anxiety appears. But the picture exists only in your mind, not in life. And because the picture is imaginary, suffering becomes unnecessary. Accepting reality does not mean accepting defeat. It does not mean giving up on your dreams. It does not mean you stop trying. It simply means you stop wasting energy fighting what already exists. You redirect your energy toward what you can actually influence: your response, your mindset, your next step. This shift alone can change everything. Instead of resisting the moment, you work with it. Instead of fighting life, you cooperate with life. Instead of drowning in frustration, you float with clarity. The truth is, reality is always kinder than your resistance to it. The present moment, no matter how uncomfortable, is always manageable. It is the mind's refusal to accept it that creates suffering. When you accept the present, you discover that you can handle it. You can breathe through it. You can learn from it. You can move through it. Even pain becomes lighter when you stop fighting it. Once the fight inside you ends, the struggle outside you feels less overwhelming. Acceptance is not weakness, it is the beginning of wisdom. When you accept what is happening, you understand the situation more clearly. Your decisions become wiser because they are based on truth, not denial. You begin to see paths you never saw before because your mind is no longer clouded by resistance. Acceptance turns chaos into clarity. Acceptance turns fear into understanding. Acceptance turns worry into peace. Think about how much peace you would feel if you stopped resisting the parts of your life that are already here, if you stopped wishing the past was different, if you stopped demanding that every person must behave exactly as you want, if you stopped trying to control every outcome, if you stopped forcing the universe to follow your timeline, the weight on your shoulders would instantly become lighter. Buddhism teaches that suffering equals pain times resistance. Pain is inevitable in life. Everyone faces challenges, disappointments, and losses. But resistance is optional. And when resistance drops, the suffering decreases. When you stop arguing with reality, you begin to see possibilities where you once saw problems. You begin to feel calm where you once felt stressed. You begin to trust the flow of life where you once felt trapped. Acceptance does not mean staying stuck. It means starting from a place of truth instead of illusion. It means saying, "This is what is happening right now, and I will respond to it with wisdom instead of fear." When you operate from acceptance, your life begins to open. You make better choices. You handle emotions more gracefully. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot change and start investing it into what you can. This shift transforms your entire experience of living. Peace is not found by perfecting your life. It is found by accepting your life. When you stop fighting reality, you stop fighting yourself. The clouds in your mind start clearing. You begin to breathe freely again. You feel lighter, softer, more grounded. And slowly, without force, you realize something extraordinary. Everything you were worried about becomes easier to handle once you stop resisting the moment you are in. When you stop arguing with life, life stops arguing with you. And peace begins. 9. The more you trust the process, the more life reveals its hidden order. One of the deepest secrets of spiritual peace is understanding that life is not random. Things do not happen just because. There is a hidden order behind everything, behind your struggles, behind your delays, behind your heartbreaks, behind your growth, behind your breakthroughs. But the human mind fears the unknown, so it tries to grab control of everything. It wants guarantees. It wants certainty. It wants immediate answers. And when life does not reveal its plans instantly, the mind panics. It creates worry, doubt, fear, and endless questions. What if this fails? What if things don't improve? What if I made the wrong decision? But Buddhism teaches that the path becomes clear only when you stop forcing clarity. When you trust the process, the universe begins to reveal its hidden wisdom one step at a time. The pieces of your life come together not in one explosive moment, but gradually like a sunrise that slowly lights the sky. Yet most people never see this beauty because they are too busy worrying about what they cannot see. They forget that every journey becomes clearer as you walk it, not before. When you trust the process, your energy shifts from panic to peace. Trust softens the heart. It steadies the breath. It quiets the mind. You begin to see that life is not against you. It is preparing you. Every difficulty builds a piece of your strength. Every delay refines your patience. Every disappointment redirects your path. Every moment, whether pleasant or painful, is shaping you into someone capable of holding the life you are destined for. Growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens in uncertainty, change, and challenge. Trusting the process means understanding that even when you cannot see the purpose still exists. Think of a seed buried in the soil. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening. The earth looks still. The surface looks unchanged. But underneath, in darkness, the seed is breaking open. Roots are forming. Transformation is occurring. Growth is happening invisibly before it ever becomes visible. Your life works the same way. When you feel stuck, when nothing seems to be moving, when everything feels quiet or confusing, something is still happening beneath the surface. You are developing strength, perspective, discipline, emotional maturity, self-awareness, and resilience qualities that can only grow in silence and waiting. But if the seed began to panic underground, if it thought, "Why am I not growing? Why is nothing happening? Why can't I see progress?" it would still not help it grow faster. The process needs time, patience, and trust. Human life follows the same natural intelligence. You cannot rush what is unfolding inside you. You cannot force your destiny to arrive before you are ready. Trusting the process means respecting the timing of your inner growth. When you trust life, you relax your grip. You stop clinging to forced outcomes. You stop chasing things that are not aligned. You stop trying to control every detail. And the moment you let go, life suddenly feels lighter. You begin moving with the current instead of against it. You start noticing signs, opportunities, and possibilities that were blocked by your previous fear. Trust opens the door for life to guide you gently. The process becomes easier because you stop wrestling with it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of fearing the unknown, you begin exploring it. Instead of trying to jump to the finish line, you begin honoring every step. This shift is not small. It transforms your experience of living from anxiety to awareness, from fear to acceptance, from confusion to clarity. Even the hard chapters begin to make sense when you trust the process. You start realizing that the relationships that ended taught you self-worth. The opportunities you lost pushed you toward better ones. The mistakes you made helped refine your judgment. The loneliness you experienced deepened your inner strength. The setbacks you faced slowed you down just long enough for something greater to align. Trust is the understanding that life is wiser than your plans. Trusting the process also brings deep emotional stability. You no longer collapse every time something goes wrong. Instead, you remain centered. You understand that the path may twist, but it eventually leads somewhere meaningful. You understand that clarity may not come instantly, but it always comes. You understand that worry does not speed up anything, it only empties your energy. When you operate from trust, you live with a calmer spirit. You stop assuming the worst. You stop overthinking every detail. You stop imagining disasters. You begin to believe that you are being guided, shaped, and supported in ways you cannot fully understand yet. This belief brings peace, even when life is uncertain. And the most beautiful part is this: when you trust the process starts trusting you. Meaningful opportunities begin appearing. Helpful people enter your life. Inner guidance becomes stronger. Decisions become clearer. You begin stepping into alignment effortlessly. Things that used to feel impossible suddenly begin to unfold. Because life works with you the moment you stop working against it. Trust the process. Trust your timing. Trust your strength. Trust the unseen hands shaping your path. The universe has never abandoned you. It has been preparing you. And when you trust that truth, everything in your life begins to fall into place quietly, naturally, and beautifully. 10. Your inner world creates your outer experience. Change within, and life changes without. One of the most underestimated truths in Buddhist philosophy is that the world you experience on the outside is a direct reflection of what you carry on the inside. Most people believe the opposite. They think life must change first: circumstances, people, opportunities, timing, and then they will finally feel peaceful. But this belief traps you in endless waiting. You wait for someone to behave better so you can feel calm. You wait for a situation to improve so you can stop worrying. You wait for success to appear before feeling confident. You wait for clarity before releasing fear. But life doesn't work this way. Your external world rearranges itself when your internal world transforms. This is why worrying never helps. Worry does not bring solutions, it blocks them. Worry does not attract peace, it repels it. Worry does not prepare you, it drains you. Worry clouds your judgment, weakens your courage, and disrupts your alignment. When your inner world is chaotic, your outer world feels chaotic too. People seem more difficult, problems seem bigger, opportunities feel farther away, the world feels heavier. This heaviness is not the world, it is the weight of your internal turbulence being projected onto it. When you change your inner world, life begins to shift in ways that feel almost magical. A calmer mind creates clearer decisions. Clearer decisions create better outcomes. Better outcomes create more confidence. More confidence creates new opportunities. The change begins inside you, long before it appears around you. It is like inner sunlight when you light it within yourself. The world around you brightens naturally. Think of two people walking through the same forest. One is full of fear, imagining danger behind every tree. The other walks peacefully, noticing beauty and possibility. The forest is the same, but their experience is completely different. Why? Because their minds are different. In the same way, two people can live the same life circumstances, but experience them entirely differently depending on the quality of their inner world. Your mind is the lens through which you see your reality. If the lens is clouded, everything looks dark. If the lens is clear, even challenges appear manageable. Buddhism teaches that the mind can be trained. Just as the body changes with exercise, your inner world changes with awareness. When you become aware of your thoughts, you stop letting them control you. When you observe your emotions, you stop reacting blindly. When you calm your inner environment, you stop projecting fear onto your external world. You begin responding instead of reacting. You begin creating instead of complaining. You begin shaping your life instead of being shaped by fear. Changing your inner world does not mean suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is perfect. It means learning to hold your emotions with understanding instead of panic. It means listening to your fears without letting them command you. It means allowing your experiences to teach you instead of break you. It means becoming the guardian of your mind instead of its prisoner. When you develop this inner strength, your experience of life transforms because you no longer get pulled into storms that once overwhelmed you. When your inner world becomes peaceful, everything around you begins to reorganize. You start noticing blessings that used to go unseen because your mind was too busy worrying. You start attracting calmer relationships because your presence becomes soothing. You handle challenges with clarity because your thoughts are not cluttered with fear. Even difficult situations stop feeling like personal attacks. You begin seeing them as part of your growth. This shift in perception is profound. Life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something that happens with you. Your inner world also influences the opportunities that come your way. When you are calm, grounded, and trusting, you naturally move in the right direction. You see openings you missed before. You make courageous choices you once avoided. You stop sabotaging your own progress with fear and doubt. Life becomes smoother because you are not fighting against it from within. The anxiety that once blocked your path begins to dissolve. You start creating momentum instead of losing it. The most beautiful part of this truth is that the power to transform your life has always been inside you. You do not need everything outside to be perfect. You only need to cultivate a peaceful center within yourself. When your inner world is balanced, you can handle external storms without collapsing. When your inner world is spacious, you can welcome new opportunities without fear. When your inner world is calm, you can walk through uncertainty without losing yourself. So whenever life feels overwhelming, do not rush to change the outside first. Change your inner world, soften your breath, quiet your mind, bring awareness to your thoughts. Let go of the need to control what is not yours to control. Become present, become grounded, become still. From this stillness, clarity will rise. From this clarity, wisdom will emerge. From this wisdom, the right actions will appear. And from those actions, your outer world will transform naturally, gently, and beautifully. Your life is shaped not by what happens around you, but by what happens inside you. Change the inner and the outer begins to change with it. 11. The universe responds to your energy, not your worry, not your fear, not your panic. There is a powerful truth hidden in Buddhist philosophy and supported by every ancient wisdom tradition. Life reflects your energy, not your desperation. Worry, fear, panic, and anxiety do not attract solutions, they attract confusion. They do not bring clarity, they cloud judgment. They do not pull good things toward you, they push them away. The universe is not responding to what you say you want. It is responding to the energy you carry while wanting it. And when your energy is full of fear, you send a message of resistance instead of alignment. Most people never realize how deeply internal energy shapes external outcomes. They worry constantly, believing that worry will somehow prepare them for challenges or protect them from pain. But worry is like static noise. It blocks the signals of intuition, opportunities, and clarity that life is trying to send you. Imagine trying to tune into a radio station while the frequency is full of distortion. You cannot hear anything clearly. That is exactly what happens when your energy is filled with fear. You cannot recognize the right path. You cannot feel inner guidance. You cannot make wise decisions. You become trapped in the loudness of your own mind. Buddhism teaches that when you shift your inner state, life shifts with you. When your energy becomes calm, your perception becomes clearer. When your perception becomes clearer, your actions become wiser. When your actions become wiser, your results improve. Everything begins inside. This is why monks spend years cultivating inner peace, not because they want to escape life, but because they understand that peaceful energy allows them to engage with life far more effectively. Your energy is like a magnet. When you carry panic, you attract more things to panic about. When you carry gratitude, you attract more things to appreciate. When you carry calm confidence, life begins to open in ways you never expected. This is not magic. It is psychology, spirituality, and energy all working together. The world looks different depending on the state of the observer. When your mind is fearful, the world appears dangerous. When your mind is peaceful, the world appears manageable. When your mind is hopeful, the world appears full of possibility. The world hasn't changed, you have. Think back to times in your life when you were calm and centered. You made better choices, didn't you? You communicated more clearly. You handled challenges with more maturity. You noticed opportunities you would have missed in a stressed state. Even the way people treated you was different. Calmness is a quiet power. Worry is a loud weakness. The more anxious you become, the more misaligned your decisions get. But the calmer you become, the more your life moves in the direction you want. Your energy also affects the timing of events in your life. When your energy is tense and desperate, you try to rush everything. You want answers immediately. You want results instantly. You want certainty right now, but life does not open under pressure. Flowers do not bloom faster because you demand it. The river does not flow faster because you shout at it. Some things require patience, and worry slows the process instead of speeding it up. Calm energy, however, keeps you open, receptive, and aligned with the natural timing of your journey. When your energy shifts, your relationships shift too. Fear-based energy creates conflict, misunderstanding, and emotional distance. Calm, compassionate energy builds trust, connection, and harmony. People feel your energy before they understand your words. A peaceful presence brings peace to others. A restless presence creates restlessness around you. You cannot hide your energy. It communicates everything your words cannot. And here is the most beautiful truth. You have full control over your inner energy, even when you cannot control external events. You can choose to breathe deeply instead of react impulsively. You can choose to return to the present moment instead of drowning in imagined futures. You can choose to soften your thoughts instead of attacking yourself mentally. You can choose to relax your body instead of letting tension take over. These small choices create a massive shift in your energy over time. When your energy becomes aligned, life responds differently. Difficulties feel easier to navigate. Solutions appear more quickly. Opportunities feel naturally drawn toward you. Conversations flow more harmoniously. You attract people who match your calmness and lose interest in those who drain your peace. You begin to experience life not as an enemy you must fight, but as a river guiding you toward growth. This is why your inner energy matters more than your outer circumstances. Two people can face the same problem. One panics and collapses. The other remains steady and finds a way through. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the energy they bring into it. Worry weakens your energy. Calmness strengthens it, and the universe mirrors whatever you carry inside. When you stop feeding fear, fear stops feeding on you. When you stop vibrating panic, panic loses its place in your life. When you choose calmness, clarity enters. When you choose trust, alignment begins. When you choose peace, life itself softens around you. The universe has always been responding to your energy. And the moment you shift that energy even slightly, everything around you begins to change in ways you can feel, see, and experience. The power was never in worry. It was always in the stillness beneath it. Shift your energy and watch your world shift with it. 12. Silence is your greatest power. When the mind becomes quiet, life becomes clear. One of the most overlooked truths in Buddhist wisdom is that silence is not emptiness. It is clarity. It is strength. It is healing. It is insight. In the modern world, people fear silence because they are afraid of what they will hear inside themselves. So they fill every moment with noise. Noise from worries, noise from overthinking, noise from comparing, noise from past regrets, noise from future fears, noise from the constant mental chatter that never seems to stop. But amid all that noise, the truth is drowned out. The path becomes hidden. The heart becomes confused. The mind becomes exhausted. That is why Buddhism teaches that peace begins where noise ends in silence. When the mind is constantly loud, you cannot see things clearly. Small problems feel enormous because the mind amplifies them. Simple situations become complicated because the mind analyzes them endlessly. Opportunities remain invisible because the mind is too cluttered to recognize them. Silence is not about forcing the mind to shut up. It is about creating a space where the noise naturally settles on its own. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you shake it, the water becomes cloudy and chaotic. But if you place it down and let it rest, the mud settles at the bottom and the water becomes clear. The same thing happens with the mind. Silence allows your inner world to settle, and when it settles, everything becomes more visible. Most people think that solutions come from thinking harder. But in Buddhism, true solutions arise when you stop thinking compulsively and allow life to speak to you through stillness. Silence brings intuition, that subtle knowing that comes not from logic but from deeper wisdom. Many of the best decisions you've made in your life did not come from panic or overthinking. They came from a calm moment of clarity. This clarity is only revealed in silence. Silence also teaches you the truth about yourself. When you allow yourself to sit with your thoughts instead of running away from them, you begin to notice patterns. You notice which fears are illusions. You notice which stories your mind repeats out of habit. You notice which emotions dominate you. You begin understanding your inner landscape, and that understanding is the foundation of wisdom. In silence, you confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, not to punish yourself, but to heal. Silence is also where you begin to regain control over your mind. When you observe your thoughts quietly, without judgment, you suddenly realize that your thoughts are not you. They are simply mental events passing through awareness. This understanding alone frees you from worry, because you no longer get trapped in every fearful idea. You become the watcher of your mind, not the victim of it. And when you develop this ability to watch your thoughts without being dragged by them, your entire relationship with life transforms. In silence, fear begins to lose its power. Fear thrives on noise. It survives by overwhelming the mind. But when you sit in stillness, fear becomes exposed. You see it for what it is, a temporary emotion, not a permanent truth. You begin to notice that many of your fears dissolve the moment you stop feeding them with mental attention. Silence starves fear. It softens anxiety. It brings warmth into the cold spaces of your heart. Silence also reveals the deeper rhythm of your life. When you stop rushing and allow yourself to be present, you begin to sense a quiet intelligence guiding your path. You begin noticing signs you were too distracted to see. You begin feeling moments of inspiration that rise from within. You begin realizing that life is constantly communicating with you through your intuition, through your emotions, through quiet moments, through unexpected clarity. But you can only hear this guidance when your mind is silent enough to listen. Think about how nature operates. A seed grows in silence. Flowers bloom in silence. Trees rise in silence. The sun moves across the sky without noise. The world does not need noise to evolve. It evolves through stillness, patience, and alignment. In the same way, your inner growth does not happen through frantic mental activity. It happens in the quiet spaces where the mind is soft, open, and free from unnecessary tension. Silence is not isolation. It is connection with your true self. When you embrace silence, you begin to understand what your heart really needs. You begin recognizing what drains you and what nourishes you. You begin sensing which path resonates with your soul. Silence brings you back to yourself, and when you return to yourself, worry loses its grip because you no longer feel lost inside your own life. Silence also strengthens your presence. When you are quiet inside, people feel it. They feel your calmness, they feel your stability, they feel your groundedness. Silence becomes a kind of energy, a soft, peaceful strength that does not need to shout. It draws people toward you and makes them feel safe around you. You begin influencing people not by talking more, but by being more. This is the Buddhist understanding of real power, silent power, calm power, inner power. And perhaps the most beautiful gift of silence is this. It teaches you that you do not have to react to everything. Not every thought needs attention. Not every feeling needs a story. Not every situation needs an immediate reaction. Silence gives you the space to pause, breathe, and choose your response instead of reacting impulsively. This alone reduces 90% of your stress. So take moments of silence seriously, not as empty pauses, but as sacred spaces where your mind recalibrates, your heart heals, and your soul speaks. When you make silence part of your life, even a few minutes a day, you begin noticing that your inner storms start calming on their own. Your decisions become wiser, your life becomes clearer, and worry begins to fade, not because life has changed, but because you have changed in the depth of your inner stillness. When the mind becomes quiet, life becomes clear. And in that clarity, everything begins to fall into place. If there is one message running through all these lessons, it is this. Your life becomes peaceful the moment your mind stops attacking itself. Worry is not something the world gives you. It is something your mind creates when it tries to control the uncontrollable, predict the unpredictable, and resist the unavoidable. Every teaching you've heard is a reminder that life itself is not your enemy. Life is always moving, always shifting, always guiding you, always reshaping you into someone stronger, wiser, calmer, and more aligned with your true path. You do not need to solve everything at once. You do not need to know what happens next. You do not need to control every outcome. You only need to learn how to return to yourself, to your breath, to your present moment, to your inner stillness. Every time you choose to breathe instead of panic, you reclaim your power. Every time you choose acceptance over resistance, you dissolve a layer of suffering. Every time you choose trust over fear, you shift the direction of your life toward clarity. The truth is simple, but life-changing. When your inner world becomes calm, your outer world begins to reorganize itself around that calmness. Situations that once overwhelmed you become manageable. Problems that once frightened you become solvable. Emotions that once controlled you become visitors, not masters. You begin to see that the greatest transformation in your life will never come from forcing the world, but from understanding yourself. Worry loses its power when you understand impermanence. Fear weakens when you stop believing every thought. Stress softens when you stop fighting reality. Life opens when you stop gripping it too tightly. And peace grows when you listen to the silence inside you instead of the noise around you. You do not need a perfect life to feel peaceful. You only need a peaceful mind. You do not need every question answered. You only need to trust that answers come at the right time. You do not need the entire path revealed. You only need the courage to take the next step. The universe is not testing you to break you. It is shaping you to meet the version of yourself you are becoming. The delays, the challenges, the detours, the unexpected changes, all of them are part of your unfolding. Relax. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are growing in ways you cannot yet see. You are being prepared, strengthened, and guided. Your life is not falling apart, it is falling into place. And when you finally stop worrying, stop resisting, stop overthinking, and allow yourself to trust the deeper intelligence of your journey, you will see something extraordinary. Everything you were fighting for begins to arrive naturally. Everything you feared begins to soften. Everything you longed for begins to align. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became open enough to receive it. Breathe. Relax. Let go. Everything is falling into place. Slowly, quietly, beautifully, exactly as it was meant to.